All right. I think everything should be unmuted. All right, guys. Welcome to this week's FC chat, and let me just straight up say thanks for the sub, Una and stuff, and the other guys like following and all that stuff. Much appreciated. You will see I do have for FC chat I have the notifications and stuff muted because I think it can get in the way of the conversation. I hope you guys understand. So I always try when we have like several guests, I always try to hit like a theme, or maybe they're both from the same group. So it makes sense. And I felt like, so I wanted to invite someone from Horde. Gobbins is not too eager to go onto talk shows or like podcasts anyway. I kind of knew that anyway. So I asked Alphastarpilot, who was up for it. And we both know each other not too well. It has been a long time, actually. I looked it up. It's around 6 years that you have been in it, 6 years ago. And he actually had a similar path 6 years ago that Blurkus went through. I would say, when did you start FCing and Init? Maybe a year ago? Something like this? Blurkus?
Yeah, about that, like a year and a half.
Yeah, so there's like a gap of 5 years in between, but it's a similar path. So I thought the two of you guys would fit together quite well here. So like I said, Alpha, we had, I mean, you're in a different time zone, so we weren't FCing together all that much, but we had some time together in the same alliance, and I remember you actually coming up, like starting to FC, and the first thing when you jumped on comp, my first thought was, holy shit, that voice is different. And that's another thing you guys have in common. Not only did you both start out in it and stuff, but you both started out super young, right? And
Yeah.
what age were you, Alpha?
Well, I started this game in 2009, and I was 11 years old in 2000. And I started FCing around age like 12, 13. I started in actually FCing in Brick Squad during the Great Delve Thunderdome times. There's actually YouTube videos of me FCing, like killing test battlecruiser fleets with Artie Canes back in like 2012.
The glory times.
Yeah, even hearing my voice back then is just pretty cringe. It's pretty funny how much I grew up with this game. But yeah, and then I ended up in a knit because my OG Corp Thorn Syndicate joined knit Mercenaries, and the knit was contracted to go fight Raiden, or go fight with Raiden against the first iteration of the Imperium, which was the CFC at the time. And they were invading Branch, and we were staged in Venal, and yeah, that was a lot of fun. It was definitely a good breakout for me as well because of how ingrained in it was with the core FCs. I think it was still just Bliss and Darkshines and like Ferris Saloni at the time who did everything. So I kind of just came in and I was like, hey, like let's just go get some brawls, and just built it up from there. And it was a fun experience, a very different Eve, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think at the time my entire focus actually personally was just on like corp roams, and I did like German roams because I think I was comfortable with my English at the time, but I didn't like I didn't feel the need to do bigger fleets anyway, so I took only German fleets out and corp stuff. So yeah,
I remember
back in the
joining your German roams and just following you around. So I was just like hanging with your corp a lot in EU. Good times.
Yeah, we always invited everyone who can follow, because like most people might think like a German fleet, or like let it be Spanish, or for example, someone did a Swedish fleet once in it. Most of the stuff that you need to hear, that's English anyway, like warp, align, jump, exactly. All that stuff. So like if anyone in your lines, whatever lines it might be, is doing a different language, I think actually exception would be Russian, because I think Russians have like different words, which is weird. But in
Yes,
general,
that's true because
yeah.
I actually am Russian, so I do work with the Horde Russian
Oh
community,
yeah.
and I
Oh,
do some Russian roams occasionally. And FCing in Russian is a totally different animal because they have like just funny slang words for everything, like
Yeah.
random. There's like just like random like objects you'd find in like your bathroom are like what they call just ships in the game or
Yeah, I see
other
that in
statements like
Hostel.
that. So it's not as easy as any other language, that's for sure.
I see that sometimes in hostile pings that are in Russian, then they're talking about beavers, for example, or I forgot what the other ostrich is. It's like, what the fuck, guys? We can fucking translate it in Google Translate, but we don't know what's going on. Like, what's beavers and what's ostriches? It's
oh
crazy.
man. I I was looking at hostile pings once, and some dude was like paying for help in Vietnamese. I'm like, wait, what the heck? What's wrong with this guy? And it translated to something along the lines of like, hey, I'm new here. The fuck do I do? It was just in the ping stream. I was like, what?
And Vietnamese, that's like even more rare. I mean, if you get a strong, like, sizable alliance with just Vietnamese pilots, that's like as OPSEC as it can be. Like, good luck getting a spy in there that's useful, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's probably one of the advantages the Chinese groups have right now. Is it's very limited. Of like, if we get a spy into like a Chinese group, it's not that easy to actually get all the intel all the time, right? Not always is someone on to translate it. It's not easily just copy paste it. Sometimes it is, but it can be tricky, and especially on comms if they're like speaking Chinese only, very hard. Yeah, but what I wanted to say actually, when we went onto the whole like Russian is maybe a little bit different thing, I just wanted to say, guys, if your alliance does other languages, other roams in other languages, don't be too afraid to join them, right? Just join them and you'll be fine. Like, and I remember doing the Swedish roam from someone and I just used Google Translate. It was totally fine. It was actually fun. And I learned some stuff. So, you should always go out and do that. And and for the introduction part, also, so Alpha I introduced, and then obviously Blurkus is an FC and init. Has a similar path, fairly new to FCing, not too new actually. I think you've proven yourself. You actually went up our ranks quite fast, and we're solid US times on FC by now. And just so the guys are aware. And so Alpha said you started FCing with 13, right? That's ridiculous, and that's a common thing. With some FCs, I've heard that before, but Elo, FC super young, and I think ProGod also. No, ProGod not. What's the other one? That's like Tau AD, super young guy. He's still young, and like there's a lot of people that actually started FCing super young. And
Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic to start that young, that's for sure. I mean, Eve, I guess not Eve, more so just the internet culture is much different in 2020 than it was in 2009. Like, there's a lot more political correctness, and you can't really get away with the things you used to. So I would say, like, playing a internet game with a very unique group of community was very rough in the beginning. Very, very rough. Like, it was very hard to genuinely make positive relationships, and people would actually help me in achieving my goal, which is to FC and get better. So it was a lot of kind of like, I didn't just have to fight the bad guys, I had to fight my own corp mates, alliance mates, coalition mates, because of all of the stereotypes and the jokes and the threats and a lot
the
of rough
threats.
shit. But
Threats?
Oh, that's
it,
crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember anything in detail because I kind of just brushed it all aside because I'm like, whatever, it's just a game. But there was a lot of negative things I had to fight through to be able to earn people's respect. But once I slowly started, gaining and notoriety, I got a lot more respect. And obviously, when my skill level increased through experience, that all obviously earned me a lot more. And then nowadays, I'm 22 and my voice is a lot deeper, so I'm not really like a little kid anymore. So I finished college. I'm working now, so I'm an adult. So people treat me like an adult. I treat them like an adult. But yeah, like back in the day, like Thorn Syndicate. That's if anyone's heard of like Lucian James, Keith Dro. He's like a well-known
Yeah.
guy. Used to FC like for the old Northern Coalition way back in the day. He kind of like took me in, and his corp was a great community that were like the first people to really show me just compassion and respect, and helped build me up to the confidence to take out bigger fleets. And yeah, I had some great experiences and bad experiences when I was younger, but it all honestly helped me get better in the game, and honestly transitioned into real life too, because the amount of shit I had to deal with just to run a fleet, like it just helped me prepare myself for real life. You never know, like when you meet people at work or somewhere else and people are just giving you shit for whatever reason, you just kind of have to be the better person and keep trucking and get your job done, whatever it is.
Well, that's also a common theme that, some skills translate very well into real life, especially that kind of stuff, I think
That's actually really
leadership
actually
in
funny,
general.
Pando. One of the first alliances to show me like respect when I was like 13 and FCing in Brick Squad was Evoke, the German guys. They like loved me for some reason. I just still remember I had like I
We
was in
have
like a
a lot of them still, or not a lot of them, but the remainder.
a lot of like I had a group chat with all their like main FCs, and then when they were deployed in Delve, they were always just like hyping me up, and that was a good time.
I hope it wasn't too bad in Init. I mean, back in the day, it was a different Init, I have to say, and there were some bad people around at the time that I remember, so I can totally see some dudes back in the day, maybe.
And it was actually pretty fine. I think it wasn't more so like people causing problems. It was more so you guys have a very unique just set of systems in place, and your organization is just set up differently than everyone else's, with how you like name fleets, how you run fleets, and all that stuff. And I kind of came in like didn't know what any of that meant, was just like running fleets. And back then there was no Discord, so we had to make like forum posts for ops and then like name them in this specific way. And I was like, whatever, like I'm just gonna name them init fight or whatever instead of init beta or gamma or whatever it was. And then people would like give me shit for it. But once I figured it out, it was pretty okay. And I remember at that time, like Init Mercs got a huge influx of corps, and all of those people knew me from the old Northern Coalition and Brick Squad days. So all of those guys were fleeting up with me right away. But then the core Init dudes like slowly started trickling in once they saw battle reports of like really good fights, and then it was pretty smooth.
That's usually how it goes, right? And I think Blurkus, that's pretty much what happened to you too. Like in an old group like that, not only in it, I think it's the same in PL and C, whoever it is, and you have to get a couple good fleets under your belt, and then people say like, all right, this dude has the right attitude, he sticks to it, and he learned from mistakes. That's an important thing, I think. Don't do the same mistake like 3 times in a row, and then people will come and join your fleets. But yeah, that's probably the struggle at the start, right?
Yeah. What was it? I started seeing over here. Maybe it was like when I first joined, it's like maybe a year or two ago. I don't remember. I was 18 at the time. Literally fresh out of high school, or still in high school, I don't remember. But it was starting FC. I had like the corp of the crew that always followed me around from Bastion. This is when my corp transitioned over from Bastion, and eventually, like, I always ask you, like, how do I get more numbers? It's like, just keep at it. You'll get that one good battle before people see it.
Correct.
and it's all repetition.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. That's, like you guys had the right attitude, so you stick to it and you're getting numbers. But like there's some FCs that come in and then they expect like the next day they want to have 200 people in fleet, right? We've all seen that before, I think. That, you have to prove yourself, even if you're the best FC the world has ever seen, right? People are not gonna just, say like, okay, let's spend like 3 hours roaming around with random dude 1, 2, 3, because it could be fun. Like sometimes people plan their days a little bit around it sometimes, and they want to have a decent chance of like some fun times and not waste their evening and pull wife aggro for nothing, right? So, and I think some FCs with a wrong attitude, they don't understand that part. And but at the same time, you need to go out and do something, right? Just go out and do it. Exactly what Alphastar just said. Like you just went out and took fleets out, and stick to it. And yeah, it's important. But yeah, 18. That's not even that young, right? 18 is like I guess.
Oh yeah.
I guess for most people in EVE, that's still a kid, but
I mean, what was it? I first started playing when I was 15. It was literally my birthday, and I'm just like, what is this game? One of my friends was playing them, and I recognized the name. I hopped in with them, and he's like, oh yeah, let's join this corporation. Let's make a corporation. So we get going. Next thing I know, some guy in Amencia, it was one of the corporations that was part of, or one of the alliances that was part of Phoenix Federation before FCon imploded. They invited us out there to join their alliance. We had like, what was it, 3-4 real people and like 10 people in the 10 people in the corporation at the time. We go out there and I don't know what anything is. I'm like, what is that? What is this? In like the most highest pitched voice I've ever heard. And um that's also where I happened to start FCing. It's like it was out of necessity. No one would step up. No one wanted to do this. No one would call anything. So and we kept getting dropped by goons. This one they deployed to Mencia as well with space violence, and yeah they put a damper on a lot of things. But eventually made my way over to Bastion and did a few things over there. Helped them actually take Fountain on the other side at least. Yeah, that's about it. I learned a few tricks from some good people over the years, though.
good old space violence. But like you started FCing right there, and out of necessity. That's also a common thing, actually. Like most people, I wouldn't say most, but like a lot of people say like, oh yeah, like I basically just started FCing because nobody else did. Like I wanted to go out and shoot people, and we needed more people, and then someone has to, FC those. And it almost always, yeah, Honey Monster, like Shine says, it's almost always out of necessity, really. I think Alphastar, like, so I thought actually you're like, I think you are US time zone, aren't you? So you say you're Russian,
Yeah.
you don't have any accent though. So you in the US.
Yeah, I'm American. I was born in the US. I live in the US, but my family is from
right.
Russia. I'm first generation American, so it was my first language.
Yeah,
so I can read, write, speak. So
yeah, because like, so you were in the US time zone, and I believe probably in it we always had that gap, that US time zone gap that we always struggle to fill. I think by now with Blurkus, we have a competent FC now that can FC in US time zone, but we always had the trouble of getting the numbers, and the clash of cultures was a problem too, I have to say. Right, with like a corp like Fwedded, for example, it's very different to our culture, really. Like trying to be a little bit more, I don't want to shit talk about, a little bit more mature,
yeah, I get you. There was definitely that clash in the knit.
Yeah.
When I was in there, I remember it was more of like an init versus an init mercenaries, because init mercenaries was like 80% fresh new corps that were mostly US time zone that were kind of doing their own thing, and then like everyone else was the core EU dudes that have like their goals and helping Raiden and And there was definitely a bit of a clash there for sure. So I know what you mean.
Yeah, I think
And
it worked against us there. The IM kind of thing a little bit. Because it splits the groups up a little bit more, even though we didn't have to. We could have just invited them straight to Init and build our years times on that way. But yeah.
Yeah.
But so I want to kind of come back to what you said earlier. Like some people like threatened you or whatever because you were so young. And then, I mean, obviously, it draws attention if someone gets on comms, FC's a flea, and has a squeaky voice. You know, people gonna have some comments or whatever. That's pretty normal, right? But like, there was some serious stuff too that you like had to fight. Really, like, do you have any examples for that?
I mean, this stuff happened like a long time ago.
I know.
I'd say, I guess serious stuff was just like threats to like dox me and like threats to like make jokes about like my parents or just like me personally, and just a lot of rough stuff. Like I learned a lot of adult terms and adult things, I guess, because of this game, because of what I was subjected to when I was younger. But it's all good now. Like it's all water under the bridge.
Yeah,
Yeah, there was a lot of that back in the day.
It didn't hurt you, I guess, in the end.
Nope, it made me stronger, in my opinion.
You know what? So I have like a similar thing, like because I did German fleets back in the day, and in every group, no matter what game, no matter like, I don't care. 10% of people are just idiots. That's just how it is. 10% you can, they're gonna do idiot stuff.
Yeah, I agree.
It doesn't matter what group you're in. Could be Horde, could be in it, could be whatever it is. But I got like comments like I'm a Nazi and shit because I did only German fleets. And I was like, what the fuck are you guys even talking about? You can join. It's just the language. Like, it's all that it is.
Yeah, and I'm Jewish, so I get the other end of that.
Yeah, all right. Right. People are just, 10%. So if there's anyone listening who's thinking about FCing, you're gonna get kind of shit. Like, I think nowadays not so much, but there might be.
It's different nowadays, and I think with the big alliances nowadays, it's easy to become an FC in a place like Goons or Test or Horde, for example, because of just all of the supplemental stuff available for you to just, all three of those alliances give you a stepping stool basically into the FC position if you so want to.
Yeah, I think people appreciate the content creation part a little bit more nowadays too.
It's a different game, so it's much harder to get content now. So I think FCs are much more respected and valued.
Daddy Deep says, I kind of miss shit talking in local sometimes. I appreciate a little bit of shit talking. Some people just go too far. Just too far. Like a little bit of friendly banter, you know what I mean? That's totally fine. Like today, I got headshot and people kept posting my lost mail. And it's like, all right, you got me. It's like, whatever.
The goon shit talking in PF-Q is pretty bonkers. I deployed a SIG here to just brawl them for good fights, and it's just some mind-boggling trash talk. I told my SIG, like, just put a GF in local all the time and keep it casual, and I think Asher kind of said the same thing, but I guess
the goons will be goons.
Yeah, don't really like to listen. So it's like, for example, I just fought them like very outnumbered right on their undock, and then we pieced out obviously because we can't sustain that. And there was just an absurd amount of trash talk in local.
Yeah, it's kind of similar to like what I got fighting NC up north in Tiena when we were deployed in 5-P. Like, we undocked, we were outnumbered, we gave it a shot, and then you disengage and just not stopping, right? Some people are just like, they can't appreciate it. They don't see the full picture. That's the thing, right? Those guys that are shit talking local, those are not the guys having all the D scans thinking about should be engaged, should be not engaged. Those are not those guys.
Yeah.
It's like, what are you gonna do? Some like it's that 10%, and those are the loudest guys usually.
The loudest minority is the one that is the most annoying, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I don't think that will ever change. I don't see it ever change. So like, funny enough, you said like you were talking about the whole like resistance kind of thing. So people have like a little bit of a resistance joining a fleet if you're like super young, and that was actually on my list right on top, and I didn't even send you guys a question. What other challenges do you think were there though? Like, so what do you think if you start out as an FC? What do you think are the number, like the top 3 challenges you think, like what do you have to overcome? Like get numbers or get just stick to it? Like do you have anything special that you like surprised you that you were like, oh, this is way harder than I thought?
I'll go first. I'll say number one. I think like being an FC, like you have to have like a personality that attracts people and keeps people engaged. I feel like people that do like Twitch streaming or live streaming of any kind and FCs are pretty similar in the fact that they attract people and provide them some sort of content. So I think you need to have a personality that's able to attract a large amount of people and provide them the content that they're looking for, which in Eve is fights and kills and a good time. I would say that's like the first thing as an FC. After that, I would say you need to know like the basics of the game in the sense of you need to know like what can engage what ammos are in this distance, etc., etc., etc. So there's a lot of mechanics. This game is very, very complex. And I guess number 3 is you need to know the metagame a bit too. You need to know like who your enemy is, who your enemy FC is, what are his tactics, his or her tactics, what can your tactics be to counter that. And I think those are 3 things that are pretty core to people trying the FC, in my opinion.
Yeah, similar to what Alphastar said. Number one has to be the attitude. It's like, one is that they have to be compassionate enough so that they can relate to the line members and also have that mentality to keep going forward, keep fighting, etc., etc. And then number 2 has to be it has to be an opportunity. There's very little chances really for people to go out and actually get good like experience, I'd say, because it's not every day you can get like 100 versus 100 and go toe to toe like that in a similar fleet comp. It's like it's nearly unheard of, really. But whenever or if they can ever get that, that'd be like the biggest stepping stone there. They'll see a fun BR, people will see that, and then they'll just keep following up.
Yeah, I like what you just said, like the attitudes of people, and I think that's something I'm still working on, to be quite honest. To just have the right attitude about stuff, you know, make it a good time. Just you're taking people out. In the end, you know, in most scenarios, it's like people come home and they would just want to chill out. Some people might just watch a series or whatever, and other people play Eve or play something else. They make time for that, and they want to have a good time. So, you know, have a good attitude and treat people right. I think that's the number 1 key thing. Don't lose your shit about like stuff. Unless I had Progod on. Progod is, for example, he's one exception. Unless you're funny, right? If you're really funny and entertaining because of it, you might as well do it. But most people aren't. So, you know, so you need to, you know, have a good attitude about stuff and treat people right. I think that's the number 1 thing I learned from FCing 100%. It's not like I had a shitty attitude at start also, but yeah, I think it's over the years that's what I learned. So I like it a lot. Yeah. Who's the third guy? I explained it at the start. It's Blurkus and Alphastar. Both a similar path. Both very young guys when they started FCing. Just because someone asked, and there might have been just new people joining. So we're talking about starting out at the moment, starting out as an FC. But these guys are actually very experienced by now. I mean, Alpha, you started out young, you FC'd a lot, and it has been 6 years since you started, or like more than 6 years. 6 years, that's what I thought you started in it, but you were FCing before. So at least 6 years, and now you're actually running your own SIG too, right? So like you've come quite far. Like you joined PL after Init, I believe, and then you joined Horde, and now you've got your own SIG and Horde. So both of you guys are probably have decent experience by now, right? Even though we're talking about starting out, but yeah. Do you have any like super painful lessons that you had to learn? Like what was the hardest whelp you ever had, guys? Did you have like one of those? Come on. What's the shittiest fleet you've ever done? The worst. Like might not even be a whelp, might be like a 5-hour waste of time or something. Which is I feel like the worst.
You got it.
One of mine that I remember well was when I was in test, and it was during the Honey Badger Coalition days, and we had during the Perma MWD Drake fleets, and I was fighting Darkside's signature Naga gang in Catch, and I just kept MWDing towards them with the Drakes, and they were MWDing away faster than me with Nagas, just killing. Like I had like a full fleet. They had like 50 dudes, and they were just killing everyone one by one. And then Shadu was still active, so Shadu was just like roasting the shit out of me after. I was like arguing with him about how I thought I knew everything when I was doing the right thing, and he was telling me how I should have used probes and warped on top of them instead of MWD towards them, and he was just completely roasting me like in front of everybody. And I'd say recently, back when Horde lived in Geminate, I unveiled an Ishtar doctrine for my SIG, and the first fleet we did got armor Ishtars, and they got tick bombed by Siku, who runs Tests Predators SIG, and he tick bombed us on the same grid. We were like 2,000 off the gate, killing a Reitaru, and then I just warped us to the gate, and he tick bombed us while we were on the same grid and killed like 60 Ishtars because of the tick bomb, and that was just like Jesus Christ.
Yeah, for those who are wondering what a tick bomb is, so a tick, obviously it's a server tick. So what you want to do is, if a hostile fleet warps to a gate, you want to release your bombs in the tick that then has them explode before, like when hostiles land in the explosion area, but before they can jump the gate. So they, in that tick of the server. So that's the tick bomb, just so people are aware of what you're talking about. But yeah, on-grid tick bombing, that's quite tricky, probably. I mean, I've never tried it, to be quite honest. It might just be easier, because you have to accelerate and then decelerate.
You gotta
or you just wing it and get lucky. Because there's little risk to it. Maybe he just winged it. He's a good bomber FC though, and he's on my list actually for future guests too. Same for Shadu, actually, that you mentioned, but I don't think I can get a hold of Shadu.
I haven't heard from him in years.
Yeah, it would be fun though to hear from him. But yeah.
Let's see. My worst off. So someone super got tackled in Syndicate, and I'm calling the fleet to go and save him. And what was it? It was tackled by Siberian squads. Next thing I know, Snuff shows up on grid, and I'm just like, oh shit. And at this point in time, like I forgot about the fact that we had a no supers thing with them. So it turns out Pal was actually trying to convo the poor guy and tell him to like try and warp out. And Siberian squad showed up with a Dracovic fleet, and what was it? I ended up feeding like a bunch of faxes and a bunch of hard reds, and especially expensive hard reds. It was like 50 bill total lost. It was pretty insane. Like a different fleet. I wasn't there for it. It was done by another guy. It was a move out that we had. It was like 100 bill lost or something. But I was supposed to FC that. I couldn't, and then he took over for it and ended up whelping almost the entire move fleet. It was when we were trying to deploy to Hakonen.
Was it simple? Simple to move?
Yeah, it was simple smooth.
I remember that one. Yeah. Move ops. If you have to take a gate and someone is set up, there's almost no chance, really. Like, if someone's set up for it, what you're gonna do? You could have used like that Fortizar in, in a different system and have an extra jump, but yeah. Some people go just like and warp to the gate and say like, it's gonna be alright, hopefully. And sometimes it isn't. It happens to the best FCs though. I remember that happened to Bliss too. Like years ago, when we moved to, I think we moved to Delft, but we came from Catch and that massive jump in Fortish 49 dash. Anyone who knows the like space a little bit knows probably that jump. It's like one of the best, biggest region jumps. And we jump through there with like freighters and jump freighters and all kinds of shit. And then suddenly the grid fills up. I forgot who it was. Might have been PL, might have been... I forgot who it was. But the grid fills up with hostiles and we're jumping in with freighters and all that shit. Yeah, so... And then I remember Bliss saying, like, take evasive. And everyone's like, yeah, no shit, dude. Like, we're fucked. It just happens, It happens to everyone, though. We caught as many moving fleets as we lost, I guess, on average. Sometimes you're the content, you know what? Maybe I should... Like I had a fucking bad fleet once. Just ISK-wise, that's probably gonna top like all of your fleets. I went around.
The Supers and Titans.
Yeah, it wasn't my op originally, but so let me explain what happened there. It's like it's in Syndicate, and there's like a what was it, an Aspel coming out, and we wanted to kill it, or someone wanted to kill it. I forgot actually who was FC in that one. But he took Ishtars, and then he took
I'm trying to look for it.
Yeah, and then he took a fight against Munins, and those Munins just like slowly grinded through that shit. And I kind of got mad a little bit that we let these guys get that final timer. It's an Asbel kill, it would be, right? So I decided to just bang the drums, get all the Supers and Titans ready, but we have to take a gate, we have to get into mid, we have to get the Sino in place and all that stuff, so it takes time. In that time, almost all our subs are dead. And then I make the call saying, oh, fuck it, just jump everything in. And when I said, hey, jump everything in, I'm thinking Armor, Supers, and Titans. I never called for Shield Titans. But yeah, Brisk jumps in with a Ragnarok. Another guy jumps in with a... what's it called? The Sancha Super. A Revenant. Another guy in a Vendetta. That Vendetta was armor tanked, but there was a jet bomb in place. So, that was bloody as shit. I think a total... The battle report was 750. I think 500... Around 500 bill was ours. Right. That wasn't good. The Aspel is dead, though. So, got caught with our pants off. That was the priciest loss of a fleet ever for my part.
It was Renus, by the way.
It was what?
Renus.
Ranius, yeah, exactly. Yeah, he took that fleet out originally. It wasn't his fault. I shouldn't have, taken over then and tried to make it right. But, that's what happens sometimes. Rhinus. Exactly, Rhinus, yeah.
Renus. I'm American or part Asian as well, so.
That's the kind of fleets you learn a lot from, though. But yeah. After that motivated me, though, I have to say. And that was right before we did a ton of Stuka Ops. And I feel like you can use that kind of stuff as like motivation. And that's what I did, I think. I took a lot of fleets out right after trying to correct my mistake. And I think at the end of the month, we killed more than we lost. So I was happy with that. He was pretty torn after that. It wasn't his fault. Yeah, it was mine. Definitely. It is what it is, though. But if there's any FC listening, you know, if you start FCing, you're gonna have one of those. Like, maybe not as much ISK-wise as mine, but you're gonna have embarrassing losses and, you know, shit fleets, and your fleets that fall apart. Like, you know, I don't know. Sometimes you can just feel it at the beginning, right? Like, I'm sure you guys had one before. You stake a fleet out and then nothing seems quite right. The warp-in sucks. The, you know, whatever, intel isn't on point, and then suddenly they have, like, instead of 50, that's 70 munits, and then you make weird decisions. You're like, why am I in warp to this even? You know, I had that earlier today, actually. I took a warp to, like, a bookmark. I thought it's on a gate. In warp, I realized, that's not a gate ping. That was on grid with hostiles. And then I got myself headshot. But, you know, the best way to do it is just reship and go again, I guess.
Headshot it twice, by the way.
Remember that fleet in horde space when we didn't want to take 30 plus gates home? I do remember that. I think I know which one you mean. It was one of the earliest Stuka ops, actually. And then we brawled, like, we tested the Stukas against, like, a full-on horde escalation, which means, like, if you're in there staging, and I'm sure there's a hordeling or two here, there's always that problem of you kill one, but it's gonna be two guys warping in, you know? So you never get rid of them. Like, you never do. It's like literally a horde. So we did that, and then we wiped the entire fleet. But we killed a lot of shit there. I think we won, actually, ISK-wise. But it was really good. And I think everyone had good fun.
We have a hordeling with us.
Just
What?
two, yeah. Yeah, well, we at least have one hordeling here, but I'm sure there's gonna be like 2 or 3 on Twitch too. But yeah, it's those, like, shit ops that you learn a lot from. I think you guys agree, huh?
Yeah.
But so those were the shit ones. What was the best op, do you think? Like, where you went home and you're like, fuck yeah, that was worth it. Like, do you remember one of those? Like,
Yeah, I have one. My favorite memory of one from the Halloween War. So I was in AAA at the time. So Stainwagon. We were deployed in Catch. So during the Halloween War, PL and NC brought fleets to our staging system every day, and, like, dropped SBUs. So this is, like, it's way back in the day. Nintosys didn't exist. They dropped Sovereignty Blockade units, and they were shooting our staging Jump Bridge Boston system. And we were staging the station. They did this every day in, like, EU time zone. And one day I formed AB Rail Tengus, because that was, like, the meta back then, with the Russian and English Stainwagon combined. So I was FCing in 2 languages. So kind of like Makalu, if anyone remembers who that is. I was just the next iteration in AAA of my. So I had formed the Russians and the non-Russian speaking Stainwagon dudes, had, like, a full, like, 250 man rail Tengu fleet. And PL had they had this meme 100 MN AB Century Proteus doctrine that Muck made up, and they had like 100
Proteus. I like crazy shit. I like it.
Yeah, and they had, like, triage too, and NC had, like, 150 man Tempest fleet with MJD's fit. So I just, like, bonsai'd in the middle of them and just started brawling it out. And then we disengaged, and because we were not breaking, so I got more Tengus and more Simis in fleet, and then NCPL jumped next door, so we jumped with them and just started fighting on the other side of this gate, and it was just, like, a huge brawl. We were tanking both of them really hard, and just slowly chewing through TFIs and Proteuses, and then Nully, Pro God, shows up with Nully with N3 in, like, 180 man Ishtar fleet. So I called in goons for backup and Razor, because this was the Halloween War, so all these entities were deployed in, like, Immensia at the time. This was right before B-R, by the way, for people who are.
Yeah, B-R basically ended that war.
Yeah. So this is right before B-R. So goons brought a Harpy fleet and Razor brought an Ishtar fleet to help us out. So it was like we were still outnumbered, but it was more even towards us. So I just started pulling range, just murdering Ishtars, and it was just like this insane fight where my Tengu fleet was tanking like 500 dudes while killing everything. So that was like a pretty intense fight, and then we managed to keep their triage tackled and killed them off at the end. And then Goons brought like a big Dami fleet like right at the end to help clean up, but it was very interesting because I was like calling targets and then also like yelling orders in Russian so that the Russians knew how to anchor up and what ammo to shoot. And then I was like also calling targets and saying things in English at the same time. So it was like pretty wild. That's the one that I always talk about. There is a YouTube video of it, so I'll look for it now when Blurkus shares his story. But that was mine.
That sounds like a good fight. Right. Blurkus, you got one?
See. Yeah, so let's see here. This was before the current war up in North. We were still neutral to Deadco at the time, and Snuff was still a thing. God bless. They were amazing. Still can't believe they did what they did. We were working with them up in the North and in Pureblind to like fight some entities off and get some content during USTZ. That is, because it's not gonna lie, it's pretty dry around our area. But I took a Nightmare fleet out, and we show up. We ref the structure, and then Snuff just giving me intel saying that one of their spies says that a Ranger Regiment Corp wants to drop a bunch of caps on us because we were just gating around Fade. So we go into Fade. We log off in the structure. I'm telling my guys like, hey, this is what's gonna happen. We're gonna log in. We're gonna go take this one gate, and they're gonna drop like 20 caps on us. You guys wanna do it? And everyone's like, all right, let's do it. So we go in, and mind you, Snuff's logged off. Snuff's logged off in like a structure, like 2 jumps back, and I go into system. They take a hurricane fleet at me, haze it. Then a Sino goes up, and in comes like 10 carriers, 8 dreads, and 2 faxes, and just like, ah, shit. And at the same point in time, I forgot that I had pre-staged some dreads in 6RCQ and a single fax. I had them jump to a Sino and take a gate, and we just started rolling it out with the dreads, and we ended up losing. And Snuff came in eventually with their own dreads and a Legion fleet or something, and we ended up wiping the field with them. The only thing we lost, and we still shame the guy to this day, we only lost a single Dictor. It was like 37 bill killed to our poor Dictor that is no longer existing. But probably the funnest fleet I've had was 1 in 5 Tech P. It was almost right when we deployed up there, really. NCPL brought in a Legion previously, and I'm sitting there wondering what year is it. And I think I grabbed Ishtar's until Bongo came in and said, "Let's go with Loki's." And we were just having a good time brawling it out with them. And they tried to extract and just started mowing through them. And it ended up in a very, very even fight, very even BR at the end of it as well. So, good times ahead.
I do not remember those, but it's US time zone, I assume. So I'm usually, I mean, I wouldn't say I'm usually not around. Like I'd say like maybe 30% of the time I'm around. But yeah, sounds like a good fight. So we talked about the hardest webs. We talked about good fights. Do you think over time did you develop like a certain style of FCing, or do you think you're like an all-round kind of FC, or do you specialize in something? Alpha, do you prefer like certain ship types, or do you do everything basically?
I don't know if I really have a preference. I just prefer like whatever is in the meta and try to use it the best as I can. Like right now, like, I think the Ferox is the best subcap in the game, pound for pound, in terms of trading in big blob fights. So like I love flying Feroxes and just use
Yeah,
like
might be.
T1 Logi and T1 Lynx Drakes because why do you need to lose DS score?
Yeah, you might be right. Feroxes are strong.
For me, I don't have a particular preference. I just use whatever is best as well. It's like, what's the best thing to use for this current fleet? What should I use against them? Yada yada.
But you kind of love
Or
your nightmares, though, right?
oh, nightmares are fun, but I'm never using them in Nullsec again.
Why not?
Bubbles.
Like, because bubbles.
Gotta take some lessons from Snuff, my dude. Snuff used Nightmares and Geminate all the time against us really, really well. So
yeah, they had numbers though. Over here, what was it? I took a Nightmare Fleet out. It was right when Test deployed up there. I took a Nightmare Fleet in. I'm just like, oh, this is a terrible idea. I saw local at 100 in 1 second. Told Faxes to jump. Look back. There's 250 in local. And then I lost an entire Nightmare Fleet. It wasn't the funnest thing, that was
So
for sure.
when you say bubbles, it's like Dictators can get on you and keep you bubbled forever, basically.
Oh yeah.
And their tracking is just not that great, so you have a hard time killing Dictators. That's what you're talking about, right? So if you lose the fight, there's a high chance of losing a good chunk of the fleet, which is expensive in Nightmares. That's probably what you.
Yeah. Like they're more of, for personally, it's more of a low sec doctrine, simply because it's afterburner fit. The Dictators and any tackle can just burn in the second there's a bubble in them. It's more of an all or nothing fleet comp without decent numbers. Like the second you start losing some in null sec and there's bubbles already on you, your fleet's dead. Your fleet is forfeit. In low sec, you can just swap the fleet out if they don't have all the points and such.
Yeah. I mean, you could supplement your nightmares with like anti-tackle stuff, but obviously that takes away from numbers, which we don't always have in US time zone, obviously. But I think in general, nightmares can do well in nullsec. Always depends on numbers, obviously. You used to be in PH, love flying them. Wait, Pandemic Horde. The bean bricks. What is that? Ogre Navy issues.
Yeah, they're my meme doctrine. I don't really use them much right now though because they suck. How much you can fight with them?
What do you mean it's infinite fun?
I use them before the Boosh nerf because they're AB Nogs, so they are giant potatoes. So I would just have the links be in Maguses and Pontifexes and just boosh the fleet around to negate the fact that they can't move. But now that they removed the ability to boosh unlimited people, it's a lot harder now to use them because they're so slow.
Yeah. Another thing that I wonder about, did you guys ever fight each other? Probably, right?
I don't know.
You probably don't. Sometimes you don't know who you're fighting, obviously. Sometimes there's like several FCs on grid.
I just know who Blurkus is because NC.
They fucking hate me, man. They hate me so much. I don't know what the fuck I did to them, but they headshotted me.
Yeah, dude. I just know that NC love to talk about Blurkus. So that's the only reason I knew about you before.
They are the pure reason why I fly monitors against you guys. Because I know, usually most FCs, they go for a good fight. But no, they just want to shoot me. I don't know why. The only time I've ever probably indirectly fought you, was in J1A. It was when you had a mutant fleet. You burned right into us, and I was in Hurricanes. We just ate through your Logi wing, and I'm just sitting there like, well, he's burning past us. Let's load fusion and just eat their Logi. And then you lost your entire Logi wing. It's like, oh.
I fought you directly for that Fade Ansiblex where
I was a
bombing
dumbass. Oh, I was a fucking dumbass. I'm just like, everybody align here.
Random goon dude just decided to MWD Feroxes into Eagles, thinking that's a good idea, and then you kept bouncing around because you kept getting bombed the second you stayed on grid.
I hated it so much.
You did the same thing that you just talked about to me. You MWD'd your Canes through my Eagles, and your Bassies were slower behind you, so I just killed all of those.
Yeah. No, the thing about I'm just like, I looked back on that. I was like, wait, what the fuck was I doing? I'm literally MWDing through a fucking ball. They're orbiting you. I literally ran into you with my own monitor.
Yeah, dude, I think orbiting is the best form of anchoring on the FC. I coined the Alpha Star maneuver a few nights ago versus Asher when I set my monitor on approach on Asher's FC Legion, and I had all my Munins orbit me at like 25k. So all of the sacrileges had target tracking disruptors. So to negate that, I just had myself park on Asher the whole fleet, and then they were orbiting, so we couldn't get bombed because we weren't all clumped up, and everyone was still in EMP optimal even with tracking disruptors because they were orbiting me at like 20, 25k, and all the sacks were on top of Asher, so it worked really well.
It's John Hartley talking about.
What is he
Why don't you
going
go
about?
FC your fleet busy on talk show instead of having a fight? Worst FC ever.
Apparently they want you to fight.
John, you
is
want to
the
come on
most
too?
riled up. John Hartley is the most riled up goon I've like ever met. Like,
He's a
this
good
guy-
dude, though. I know him.
This guy just is always so riled up about everything. He needs to just take a deep breath. There's like some
Ashes you
Mexican
too.
standoff. There's some Mexican standoff in Venal right now. I'm actually watching it in my stork, but it doesn't really look like much right now.
That's a kind of, I feel like a trick that works on super young FC still is like the talking them, like, what are you doing? Like, why don't you engage? And like some people might just get talked into doing dumb stuff then, you know? I know I sometimes engage.
I used to, when I was younger, I used to like flame out with the talk, but now I just show battle reports instead of doing any talking.
Put your money where your mouth is, really.
Yeah, but that's like, it's a good example of like fairly friendly still, like of a banter, you know? Whatever. Like, people poke each other. As long as it stays kind of in that area, I'm all up for it. Like, I like good shit talking. If someone's really smart and has a good, a good line, I can appreciate that 100%. A lot of people do like some cringy shit though, where it's like, oh my god, it's so bad, you know, just straight up like insulting. It's like, what's that gonna do? Right? But yeah,
I mean,
I always tell our guys, stay classy, right? If you're really good, feel free, but you better be classy.
Whenever I'm shit talking local, I just say no you and just ignore it and keep going.
The go-to move.
Of course. There's no other way around it.
On my list, I also got wormhole changes, but I don't think you guys particularly care about them, right? I just put it on the list because
there are any.
Oh,
there
so
wormhole changes?
Yeah, so they're gonna have more. They didn't put any details out, but there's gonna be more connections between wormholes, and then the whole care bearing and wormhole space is gonna be a little bit harder with the Citadel bullshit. But I don't think any of us actually have too much of a grasp on it. What exactly it's gonna change there? So I'm just gonna skip over that, I guess. Another thing on my list. Have any of you guys been to FanFest? And if so, I think Blurkus, you haven't been. I think we talked about that before, Blurkus, right? You haven't been.
I haven't been to either.
And you don't plan
Vegas
to
or FanFest.
I haven't been to FanFest. I don't plan on going. I'm trying to save money right now. I did go to Vegas in 2018.
All right.
Because
otherwise I would have. You really want to?
Yeah, my SIG crowdfunded my airplane ticket because I was in college and had no money, and then I stayed in Elo's room. It was a pretty fun. Yeah, dude, I had a whole bed to myself because Elo never came to sleep. He was just out with Headliner literally the entire night, every night, and came back at like noon the next day.
Say, hey, what's going on? What?
Yeah, they like to go crazy in Vegas, and I think that's probably the main reason why I'm I'm not too eager about Vegas, to be honest. I mean, what we heard from Killer Bee when he was on, the story about him groping ponies and stuff.
What
So
the
they
fuck?
go crazy in Iceland too, right?
Dude, that's just some. I have a cooler story. I smoked a joint with a CCP dude in Vegas in a rooftop nightclub. That was pretty fun.
Oh, well, that's cool.
Yeah, he like came up to me and he sounded very Icelandic and he's like asked me if that's marijuana and I'm like, yeah, man. And then forgot what CCP guy
Hand
it
it
was, but
over now.
he was he was CCP guard's boss, so whoever's above him, I forgot his name though. But he was very, very Icelandic and pretty chill. Took a few hits with me and then pieced.
Talking about CCP, like, did you talk a lot to like CCP guys at Vegas, or I feel like also that's probably even at FanFest.
I was crossed for 4 days straight in Vegas. I didn't talk to any CCP dudes.
Yeah, I don't feel like
I was just having
these
fun
events.
with like the Black Legion and Horde dudes the entire time.
Yeah, because like people might think like you go to FanFest or Vegas or whatever CCP event it is, and that's your chance to like pitch your fucking thing, your idea. It's like, dude, come on.
Yeah, I'm not pitching any ideas because you have to wait in line with the people who stream running high sex sites who have 5 people watch them every night. Those people are in line.
What's wrong with people that
in
stream?
front of you.
There's nothing wrong with people that stream. There's something wrong with people that stream high sex sites with
Yeah,
5 people.
I'm not talking about people that stream. I'm talking about people that stream running high sec missions, and then they get in line and pitch some random ideas. I don't know, but like I didn't talk to any CCP people except the one dude I was smoking with, and that was not anything game related.
You know, Rain, like Chocolate Rain. I'm sure you know Rain, right?
Yes.
She banned my, which is now my bot, my first Twitch account. She banned it from her channel because I was talking about Daopa. You guys know Daopa? The guy is like streaming high sec stuff, and I was like, it's not good for the game that the top streamer on Twitch is actually a guy watching high sec NPCs mine. It's like, could it be any more boring? That's what I said, right? And she's like, oh, I can't have you talk bad about, other streamers.
You could compare it to paint drying or something.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to talk about it really. It's kind of weird to talk about it from a streamer's perspective, but like, who gives a shit? Fair. But at the same time, like, so what he does is like he has this site where you all have all the wormhole info, and if you go into that site, it's called Elatha, I believe. If you go into that site, there's his stream embedded somewhere. So everyone who's on that site counts as a viewer, and that's why he's the top stream on Twitch then. And my argument is like, if someone wants to check out Eve and thinks like, what's this game like? He's gonna click on the top stream, and then the top stream is a guy watching NPCs mine in high sec. And my argument was just that that's not good for like, to get new players in. And you didn't want to hear it and kicked me or banned me from her stream for like, I don't know. It's all good, right? There's no drama. But it was kind of funny. But yeah, I gotta be honest, right? Even though it is weird to say it from a streamer's perspective. Because it could, like, I'm not jealous or anything. I don't care if the dude could have like 1 million viewers. I don't, like, why would I care? Right? But the top stream, it's not a good recruitment tool for CCP, that's for sure. But yeah. But you guys, so you said you did talk to, like, you only smoked a joint with a CCP guy, but you didn't pitch anything, which is, I think the right way to go about like any CCP or EVE meets. But do you think, like, what do you think are like major issues in the game or what changed in the time you FC'd? Like, what do you think? What are you missing? Like, you know what I mean? What would you like to see change in like maybe 2020? Maybe this is the year. You have anything on your list?
I still think like Citadels have positives and negatives, but I think the negatives still outweigh the positives. I definitely think they should be reworked more than they were with that minor timer change. I don't really have like specific mechanical changes off the top of my head. I'd have to like write them down so I don't sound like an idiot, but I do think Citadels need to be really reworked. And I don't know, I just feel like CCP has changed who their target market is. I feel like back in the day, like for example, when I was in it, 6 years ago, I think CCP's target market was people who want to play a PvP MMORPG game. And I think nowadays their target market is more people who want a PvE, which is kind of what we see now with these big crab empires. And I really hate it. And I mean, I don't know what changes can be made in effect because it all stems down on like who CCP wants to be their target market. Do they want it to be the PvPers or the PvEers? Right now, it seems like they're making more money targeting the PvEers, but I don't know. We'll have to see. But I just think this whole idea that like, you know, like Horde has it and it has it, Goons have it, Test have it. This like crab like shit where like no matter what you do, like you gotta save those stupid idiots and Rorquals and supers that do dumb shit when you're trying to like get content and get real fights. You gotta make sure like those idiots and crab that are crabbing don't go off the deep end. So I think that's just really frustrating, and it's pretty frustrating that like that's like a core component of the game now, where there's like so much more hand holding and so many more levels of things you have to do to just get a fight. And I think a lot of that could be reworked, but I don't know. I'm not really confident that that change is happening. I think CCP made their change in terms of their target market, but I'm
Sorry, I think you're breaking up.
oh no, that's all. That's it.
Yeah,
Oh.
I totally like agree on all of that. I think though raw cards in general, they do create content, right? We tackle raw cards, we get good fights all the time. It's just you have to find the balance when it comes to raw cards, right? But yeah, it's a very PvE oriented meta at the moment, like on a big scale. What do you think, Blurkus? Like, you have any, like, what's the top thing on your list?
For a change?
Yeah, what would you like to see changed, or what do you like? Is there anything that you think people aren't aware of, or like, or maybe not enough?
Well, the first thing is that Citadels, of course, like what Alphastar said, they're extremely powerful. Much to the point, I'd say it's like nearly broken. But I'd like to see something that can either like cancel their tether or just point them while they're in tether. Like Hicks are supposed to be all powerful tackle machines, but you can't really do that on a structure.
You want to tackle someone who is tethered and then be able to tackle it?
Of course.
Might be that one
the
step too
interesting
far.
fights.
I mean,
If it's up the interesting fights.
I've said some radical shits before, like for example, if you can dock in a Citadel, you shouldn't be able to tether. You only get one of the two. That's my opinion. Like if you undock and you can tether, then whatever. You should undock and then let it be like stations, right? That's my opinion, at least. But yeah, there needs to be like drastic changes. I think the change is a little bit too soft. Like they approach the Citadels a little bit too soft. Definitely. Definitely one of my top 3 issues are Citadels. So I also 100% agree. What about like CSM? Does anyone here think about running for CSM at some point? And
It's a lot
try to get more influence.
It's a lot of, I don't know. It's not what I'm interested in. I just got my first full-time job, so I need to focus on that. Like I can't go be a imaginary politician for a video game too. It's a lot of work.
That's a good point.
For the internet space clout though.
I prefer real life clout over space clout.
Honestly, I'm still in college, so I can't really do anything there. Like if I do
Yeah,
it,
dude,
well,
go fucking party, man. Don't be the
I'm
leader.
not a
Don't be the
party.
leader of the nerd
Someone's talking out of
politics.
experience right there.
Trust me, as I just finished college, I graduated a semester early, and
Oh damn, nice.
you definitely want to enjoy your time.
I'm out here still suffering, so
Yeah, I spent half my time in college unsubbed anyway, so I could just have fun, and that was a good choice. But you do you
That's a
anyways.
smart
But
choice.
yeah, don't do CSF.
I'll leave that to Brisk. Following
Yeah.
up Brisk was like 10 minutes
Yeah,
down
yeah.
the road
Leave the
from me.
politician to the nerd politics. You just go have fun with your friends.
Well, one of
Party
the
it up.
things, I mean, we like you're saying brisk, but actually, I think the warmer change on first sight, it looks good. Like there's more connections, so PvP wise, and that's what we are asking for really. As FC is like the three of us from a content creation perspective. Like what gets you to undock more often, right? That's what I'm actually asking. Like, what would you like to see so you undock more often? Like you can create more content. And I think the warmer changes are actually going in that direction, not just for warmer space, not for us and Nullsec really. But yeah, it has Exuki's handwriting, who only got on because Brisk wasn't running, and we actually chipped in our votes. Like all the init votes went to him, basically, right? So there you can see that CSM can have some influence, you know. But yeah, and I hope like everyone who's listening, guys, like vote. Don't vote like these fucking coalition ballots. Like vote for small guys like doing like content creation. Right? Don't do the fucking space lord shit. You know, that makes me angry. That you see this like fucking lord of whatever region runs, and then that's because he fucking gets elected, and then it's just it doesn't get us anywhere. Like get content creators on and knowledgeable people so they can influence indirectly, inform CCP, and they can make the decisions. That's their job, not these fucking space politics, talking to each other and what do we want to get. Like that's not good.
Oh, we have some salty Volta dudes in chat. Oh boy.
Yeah, bitching about being in it. I don't know what you mean with that, to be quite honest. Like I'm not talking as in it, I'm talking as Pando, But I'm sure Dagon Crow has a good grasp on everything and knows all the answers. But it's alright. The 10%, that's how it is. But yeah, I think Citadels, what do you think about soft mechanics at the moment? Because that's on my list too. Like, what do you think are the problems with the current soft mechanic? Do you actually have? Did you guys even fight in soft under soft like on soft timers and shit? Or do you guys?
I've done many Intosis in my days, but I don't know. Personally, I never had a problem with the old soft mechanics of drop SBUs and shoot the iHub. I don't know. I used to get a lot of content from dropping SBUs for content and letting people form up to shoot them or shooting them myself, and it was there was like a cool like meta to like SBU your own systems to as like a defensive tactic. So like I don't know. I like that mechanic much more than Intosising. I just think Intosising is just so time consuming, and when there's tie-dye, it's just horrendously time consuming. It's just really annoying that like a lot of things in this game are like like just an absurd amount of time consumption for such little gain. I think that whole just thing needs to be reworked on time wise, or
Well,
just revert back to
I,
SBUs.
I don't really have like anything to say as for it because I haven't had enough soft fights. I know they're like essential and everything, but you're not wrong when when they take forever.
yeah. So I always thought it's too many nodes and stuff, so it's like you kind of lose your mind when you get started, you know? So, but I kind of like the approach of it. Like the approach is to spread it out a little bit over the constellation and make use of the constellation and make that the battlefield of the whole thing instead of having just one system. So you include like some gate jumps and stuff. And I feel like that makes it a little bit more interesting, to be quite honest. Or it has the potential of being more interesting. Let's say it that way. I totally see a way to like balance it though. You don't, Alpha? You think we should just go back to the old system with SBUs?
I mean, I just think that was fun, but I'd love to hear your take on rebalancing. I just don't have any idea on how to rebalance.
Well, so like, what are the problems? Like, let's talk about that. Like, what are the problems? Why don't you like enthosing, right? Or why doesn't nobody really like it at the moment? What do you think is the main reason people don't go out and enthose other space unless it's like a real war going on?
The ADMs. ADMs making it a very long time, so very low chance of success if it's a high ADM system. If there's another thing is like if there's one entry point to the constellation, the defenders can lock it down with like a huge super fleet, and you're kind of shit out of.
But that's the same for SBU, isn't it?
Yeah, that is true for same thing for SBU. So I guess like just the whole ADM thing with Intosising is a little bit. Well, a little bit. It's very heavily scaled into the defender's favor.
I agree to. You know what? I don't think I agree. To be quite honest, I don't think it's that it takes the initial enthoses should take a little bit. Like not every system is ADM6. If it's ADM6, there must be something going on there, you know. And then it takes an hour to enthose. That's a long time. But usually I would say you can get a lot of systems that are ADM3. And it's 30 minutes. So it is 30 minutes, right? It's just it scales like that, right? If I'm not mistaken here, right?
It's 10 minutes per ADM, I think.
Yeah. So, and I think that's totally fine. So if you wanna, create a timer, it's 30 minutes. And you have to give the defenders 30 minutes to actually bring a fleet. The idea is not that you have like one guy in tows, right? You would have like a small fleet there, and then you could get a fight. I mean, that's the original thought, which is a good approach in my eyes to, give defenders a time to form up and show up and give it a go and then fight over it. I don't think the initial timer is actually the issue. I think it's the like when the timer actually comes out, I just think there's too many nodes, and these nodes don't live long enough, right? So you have like at the start 4 nodes spawn, and if you do not do these 4 nodes, I think after 10 minutes another few spawn. I'm not 100% on it actually, but there's more and more nodes spawning, and then at some point, like 20 minutes, 30 minutes into the whole timer, there's going to be nodes all over the place, and you don't know any of these, and you have to scout them constantly, and actually everyone's just busy trying to kill enthoses, avoiding the fight, right? There's a very high incentive of avoiding the fight, because you can't afford to get pinned down in one system, because one system is always too worthless. If you control one system, that's not enough. You have to control several systems, so nobody wants to really take a fight in any system. And I think that's the core issue there, that we have too many nodes, so nobody wants to take the fight to decide the whole timer. If it was just 3 constant nodes, like at any given time, whatever the balance is, like there's gonna be some numbers, like you can hit the sweet spot and stuff, I'm pretty sure. But I think if you have at any given time a maximum of 3 nodes, and they don't run out after 10 minutes, so you don't, you can get there in time, let's say it's 15 minutes, then that has a way higher incentive of actually having a deciding fight on one of those nodes. Because like one node out of like 20 or whatever, it's like you're not gonna fight over that. I mean, sometimes we do, but I think that there's just not enough incentive for the fight.
So you're thinking about a system of like King of the Hill then?
Well, I would say there's a possibility you can keep the system how it is and just limit the amount of nodes and give each node a little bit more power then, you know what I mean? So you have less nodes in total spawn, but every node counts a little bit more. So if nobody shows, you can be done a little bit quicker. Because at the moment, let's be honest, you say the ADMs, it works in favor of the defender, but a lot of times it's also just a harassment tool. Like people just showing up, pinging your fucking stuff. I'm imposing with this Bifrost or with the whatever it is, right? And then you have to react because you can't afford to have a fucking timer and then stuff like this. It's just not good gameplay that way, I feel like. I feel like there is a way to just keep it like it is and then just giving each node a little bit more power and then have them longer. So it's like the time frame is kind of the same in a fight, but it can be ended quicker if there's no fight, if there's nothing going on. And then also there's 3 nodes, so you have to decide, you have to be ready and get the fight for each node and stuff. But yeah, I would love to like completely rework it. I'm not sure if that's the way to go, to be quite honest. But yeah,
I think overhaul is the better term.
Overhaul, yeah. How long do we have this soft system now? It's a couple years, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I always expected them to iterate on it, and they never did. I mean, they did to a degree once. I think they limited some nodes, but that didn't go far. And you know what? I know Jintal actually pushed for that when he was on CSM. He wanted to limit the nodes to like around the 3, maybe 4 in total, but he didn't quite got him there. Yeah, CCP iterating, I know. It's the same with Blackout, saying it's an experiment, trying to get the info and then do something with it, but they're not doing anything with the data they got. It was quite hurtful for the game, in my point of view. Like, do you have maybe you guys have a different take on it? Alpha, how did you, or were you busy with college at the time of Blackout?
No, I was subbed for Blackout. I mean,
did you resub for Blackout?
No, I was in the middle of playing when it happened. Personally, as an FC, I didn't really do much with it because I don't do like roams. I do like strategic objectives, so I didn't really like take advantage of roaming during Blackout. But from a defensive perspective, like Horde adapted pretty comfortably to that. We weren't like bleeding crabs left and right. A lot of the FCs were on crab duty for Blackout, and everyone was pretty comfortable with it.
I think all the umbrellas adapted right away. All the big umbrellas didn't have a big problem with it.
It's more of like doubling down, if anything.
You know what? Like, one of the positive effects I saw during Blackout was that it was worth having people actively being ready to react to stuff. Now, on a scale with Supers and Titans, that just didn't turn out too well. Imagine a Blackout world without Supers and Titans. That would have been a very different kind of thing, right? And I'm not suggesting, because I had a discussion with Darkshines, like, I don't know, like a couple of weeks ago. I said that before, like, just imagine a world without Supers and Titans. How would that be? I'm not suggesting to remove Supers and Titans from one day to the other, okay? I'm not saying that. I'm just saying entertain the idea. Like, what would Blackout then look like? You need to be ready to react, but you have to react with subs, for example, or Hordeads and carriers. But that stuff is way more killable than, Supers and Titans, obviously. So I think the combination of that would have been super nice. Imagine they say Blackouts. Like, first of all, I think we do not have enough players for Blackout right now. We didn't have enough players. But if we had, and then Supers and Titans weren't such a big factor, either they're nerfed to a degree or whatever, and then you have Blackout, and then it's worth it being around, being active, and saving your dudes. That would have been a lot of content for everyone. That's what I feel like, at least. But yeah, I think it did hurt the game though. Blackout.
If anything, I saw more capital usage against like larger entities. So, for example, during in a USDC, my corp always kept getting dropped by these guys with carriers, and at some point in time, we just said screw it. So and we just cloaked up dictors in the belt. They'd sino in at range, and we bubbled the hell out of them and just dropped reds. Eventually, they stopped dropping us and dropped someone else instead. But it wasn't really Supers and Titans, but there's always something to worry about. Is like we can't see anything on like even if we're in local, we have to literally be docked in the station. So it requires you to actually work a lot harder for your intel than it was like naturally, so to speak.
Yeah, I think it went both ways too. You know, you could set up traps fairly easy too, because it's Blackout. Nobody sees it in local. You could, for example, be cloaked up with like an entire Loki fleet if you wanted to, and bad people. And if there's enough roaming gangs around, then it would be worth it. But I felt like Blackout also, like the activity, first it went up, but then it died down quick. So, yeah. Like deploy freighters full of ravens. What?
Deploy freighters full of ravens in rage.
But like, what's the context here? I don't get it.
You can't see them in local and
Oh.
in wormholes.
Yeah, I guess. So, but another change, the Sino changes. Any take on that? Good, bad, meh, somewhere in the middle.
Meh is a good response in my opinion.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter too much, does it?
Not really in large scale nullsec warfare. No, doesn't really matter much, I think.
But I think it's more on the positive side though, because now I feel like as an FC, you are more in control. You know, okay, this ship is a Sino ship, right? It's a Rapier. I know, all right, this guy's most likely going to light a Sino or stuff like this. So you have that extra little bit of timing that you can react with, and then you know which ship has the Sino up, which is, you know, traditionally that wasn't the case. So you know if you kill that one ship, potentially maybe that's the last Sino, and then you have that fight, and you might just be able to, you know, win it. And I think like so it's a little positive. I would
agree with that.
It's not a crazy change. People lost their minds though. You remember when it was announced?
Their minds to everything.
I know. But
yeah,
I remember a couple of people.
Everything causes outrage these days. And it's not just stuck in Eve. Like every big change causes outrage in everything.
I work in retail, man.
Is there a lot of people raging here?
Oh, well, imagine going to a grocery store and your local Karen's at the service desk and screaming, "This is supposed to be 1 cent off," and she's just ripping your ears out. That's basically how it is, no matter where you go.
Yeah. All right. So I'm not sure if I told you actually. Like I usually aim for like 2 hours of this actually. And because the other guys just said, like the goon guys poked you and said like, "Hey, come out and play." I felt like maybe I'm like taking your time here. Like if you have to be somewhere, Alpha, like let me know, right?
I don't have to be anywhere. It's all good. We saved the timer, so
I don't want to take away from anyone's content.
Nah, it's all good.
Panda, you missed out on the free Nyx kill. How dare you?
What?
Yeah, we killed a Nyx while we were chatting.
Wait, who? Are you on that mail?
No,
Yeah, see, then don't point the finger at me. You missed it too.
I'm pointing at you.
So another change, well, shields slays, but I think the impact for now is not going to be, feel like nobody's going to feel an impact on that right now. Or do you see a massive impact coming very soon from those? Or heavy missiles? It's another change. It's on the list.
For like the whales, I'd say, and those that can afford the shield slaves, it's gonna be pricey. They're super powerful.
So you think it is gonna be super powerful on technically it should be on Shield Supers and Titans, but like on a daily basis, it's not gonna impact any of you guys' fleets, right? You don't FC Supers, or do you, Alpha?
Yeah, I FC Supers.
All right. God damn it, you got quite far in those couple years, huh?
Yeah, dude, I FC everything in Horde.
So, like, do you guys think you guys gonna change to Shields Supers anytime soon?
I don't think so. In my opinion, I think Nirvanas are awesome if you want to do Rattlesnake and Nightmare PvP in low sec, or like drop nags. When it comes to the big Titan fights, there needs one to happen to prove like everyone should be in rags and levies instead. All these people that were pifing like one bajillion EHP Komodos with everything purple. Like, what does it like? When is that ever gonna get used ever? Like, I think the whole like Pepega fest of people freaking out over Shield Nirvanas on Shield Titans is just kind of like not that crazy. Like, you need a big fight to happen, which is a very low chance for it happening to like see any like results of like rags versus Erebuses or whatever, and levies versus avatars. So
Yeah.
good for test for spending last few years building up a massive shield fleet though. Now,
well, they kind of did that knowing, right?
Yeah, I mean, now they have the Apex super capital force in the game, because when it comes to raw EHP, like, they'll always have more. But it's not like Tess is going to go drop 200 shield titans on 200 armor titans anytime soon. So it's not like there's going to be some test of DD tanking.
I mean, on paper, it looks super broken. In actual like implementation, we have, like you said, we still have to see it happen before everyone's just like, oh, that's
That would
pretty
take a while.
broken.
I mean,
Yeah.
they didn't even know. Did they announce where they're gonna drop them? Like, is it gonna be in an LP shop or something?
That's a Sancho thing, so I'm gonna assume it's an LP shop.
Is it Sancho's?
Yeah, it's Sancho.
Because someone else said it's gonna be what's it called? Garistas? I don't know, to be quite honest. But yeah, at the moment they're not getting into the game anyway, right? They're not spawning anywhere, so it's just a couple from this event, which, you know, only a handful of people could get their hands on anyway, I think. What else did I have on the list here, actually? Oh yeah, like general FC questions. I think that's probably the cooler shit to talk about anyway. So I talked about, like, I asked you guys, what do you guys think is your style? And what do you guys think developed over time? But you're like kind of all rounders. You go with the flow, you know, whatever is in the meta right now. At the moment it's Immunins, Feroxes, and so on. But do you think, like, do you have like FCing, not depending on ship type, but do you think that you have like like a particular strength or a weakness when you FC? Like you said, like the character is important. So you like, do you get more numbers or whatever? Like, do you have a strength or weakness? You think?
My general weakness is that I don't actually remember where I'm double clicking in space. It's like my mind is on autopilot really whenever I'm anchoring the fleet. It's like I should go this way. And then I don't zoom out. I'm just full tunnel vision calling targets. And that's why we have assist FCs for that.
Well, yeah, exactly. Like I was about to say, like we should have always like a little bit of a team going on. And I'm not sure, Alpha, did you like build your own little FC team over the years? Do you have like your go-to, like your right-hand man doing whatever or so?
Yeah, I actually have a German guy who's a
Oh,
good guy that I go to. It's my right hand name. His name is Vala.
how coincidental. I had a German guy
So
too.
he's he's uh he's a great guy. I've known him for a while in Horde. We started off as back in the day in Horde when I used to just meme in Standing Fleet a lot. I brought a bunch of the quote unquote elite PvPers of Standing Fleet together and made like a joke little social group, and I managed to make some of those guys like useful strategic people in terms of coordinating and FCing and such. So Vala's like my go-to guy in the EU time zone when I need help. Otherwise, I kind of just do things solo a lot of the time. Not to brag, but just it's just like when I have a fleet, I'm like the only dude in a monitor doing everything. So anchoring, target calling, blah blah blah. And I mean that obviously has its strengths and its weaknesses, but that's just kind of how I like it. I'm very OCD. I'm very similar to Elo in terms of FC style, from what I'm told. In terms of like my speed in talking and my jumping around this when I'm FCing. So it's hard. It's very hard for me to like give other people things like anchoring or target calling because I always going to be like, no, 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 do this instead, do that instead. So I'd rather just do it all myself. Kind of just makes it easier for me. So I guess my weakness is that sometimes doing it all yourself can bite you in the ass, and it has for me plenty of times. Whether it's I call the wrong target or mess up anchoring because I'm too focused on the other thing. So and I guess strength wise for me is just my situational awareness in a fight. Like for example, when we were just fighting goons on their staging undock, they undocked dreads and they were undocking bombers and bombing us straight from the undock and a bunch of other things. And I realized that they were undocking more foons and more foons, and our feroxes ran out with the reships. So I called for us to peace, and we got out just in time and still had a pretty easy victory with bleeding some losses at the end there. So I guess that's my greatest strength is just situational awareness of the grid.
You know what? I think that's one of my weaknesses. I I tend to get like a little bit of a tunnel vision when once I'm fine and don't pay attention anymore to the big picture. And if you look at my main char in game, it has the title The Black Knight for a reason. Like people called me the Black Knight because I just kept engaging and then we bleed people like the sketch from Monty Python, right? Like he loses an arm, like it's just a flesh wound. Like, and then I keep going and wipe the entire fleet in the end. And I'd say, like, bring it on. We've got like 2 more guys here. We can win this, right? And I think that's one of my weaknesses. Maybe I think I worked on that actually, to be honest. But it's still there. But yeah, it's good. Like if you know what's up and you keep an eye on it, that's a good skill to have. And what did you say? Yeah. So you don't give other jobs like to other people. So you do everything yourself. And obviously, I would say that's an FC style, right? That's just style. It has positives and negatives. Obviously, the problem I always have is I would love to give like anchor to other people and stuff like this. And the problem is always that dude that is always anchor is gonna have the most experience. But if it's not me, that doesn't mean he's always in my fleet. So I have to then get used to sometimes be an anchor myself and sometimes not. And I think that's just always a little bit annoying. Right? Oh hey, thanks for the raid, Joe Bain. Much appreciated. And welcome, dudes. Blurkus, what do you think? Like, what's your weakness? Did you already say something?
Yeah, it's mostly like tunnel visioning whenever I'm anchoring. But that's why like we have multiple people in command is like to help out and prevent that kind of situation from happening usually.
But what's your strength? What do you think? Where do you shine, Blurky?
If there's like a large amount of hostiles or something, I'll look at my own fleet comp and say, well, I have a smaller fleet, but they have this comp. Let's do it. It's more of like,
So you can judge the situation quickly. It's like kind of like it's similar to Alpha then, you know. You can judge it well, you think,
being able to do things
quickly.
on the fly. Just like, just keep going, really. It's like, okay, this is happening. We're gonna adjust to this and try and do it as quickly as possible.
Brisk coming in with the little dig. Blurkus' weakness is nightmares and SRP.
Yeah, that too. One of these days we'll get SRP for them. One of these days.
Yeah, that's like a constant struggle for. It depends on the alliance there, but like it's always a little bit of a struggle getting the SRP for your fleets. You know, not every alliance is gonna SRP or Nightmare Adventures. I mean, especially depending on what you're doing with them. And that can also be a breaking point for some FCs, I would guess. That they want to take out certain stuff, but you don't get any SRP, you don't feel supported by the alliance, and then in the end you're deciding like, it's not worth it. And then people don't FC at all. It might just happen in some groups too. Prediction: Panda will take a fleet into wormhole space. I feel like I'm good on wormhole space. The loot is good there, yeah, that's true. Blurkus, like Panda, something willing to take an outnumbered fight. You know what? I think all FCs, whenever, I think that's in general the rule. Whenever you engage as an FC, you always think you have an edge in some way. Sometimes it's numbers, sometimes it's a better ship type, sometimes you think the other guy's an idiot. Happens also. Sometimes you just feel like our guys are a little bit more experienced or have better skills in general or whatever. Like it's a little bit tighter of a setup. But whenever you engage, 99% of the time you feel like you have an edge in some way. Like, at least that's for me. Like in a straight 50-50 fight, I still engage that. But then I have to tell myself like, oh, we're gonna be better, right? Because we do this and this, So there's the edge coming in then. It's a 50-50 fight, and on paper it should be completely the same thing. But you tell yourself we can be better, so that's the edge there, I think that's the general rule, to be quite honest. Nobody takes a fight that he thinks, oh yeah, we're gonna lose 100%. You always tell yourself there's a chance. Like, I mean, there's probably going to be thousands of people saying like, oh, that's bullshit. But
that's bullshit, Vando. You, on the last day before the push nerf, you took the Ravens in knowing damn well you're gonna lose.
All right, that's true. There's special occasions. There's special occasions there. But at the same time, I would disagree. I wouldn't say I thought 100% we're gonna lose. I thought we're going to lose them 99.9%. So there was this little tiny chance that maybe a miracle happens, You never know. It's like the H-5 fight with Bush Ravens when they still worked and stuff. Where you thought like, it's not the best idea ever. And then, step by step, it kind of develops into a winnable fight. Or F7C, that's an epic fight. People in it especially still talk to them. We lost the Titan. And still people think it's one of the best fights we ever had. It's not about the ISK war. I mean, I think it was actually even at the end. We lost the Titan and the ISK war was even. But it's about what was the first scenario when you engage, and then it develops. Sometimes fights develop in a weird way. You know, you start out, you don't have a chance, but then someone makes a mistake, you know. And with bombers on grid, that might just be a fatal mistake, and the entire fight can be lopsided suddenly, right? So there's always a chance. So yeah. Those ravens did an excellent job of figuring out who had good apostle skills. That's true. That's true. There were some apostles that were almost unbreakable, even for like a 200-man raven fleet, and then other apostles were just melting. I remember those. The BR of the F7C fight. That would take me a while to find it, but I'm sure someone. There must be an init guy listening in. Go find it. F7C. That must have been a couple years ago, though. Oh yeah, what you can look up is Lost Mails for Honey Monster. Honey Monster died with an avatar. Yeah. So that's the way to find it, I guess. Was a good fight. Yeah. What do you guys think? What's in your? I think Blurkus, you weren't active at the time. Alpha, that was after Alpha left in it, I'm pretty sure. So what do you guys think? What's the most memorable fight like of all? Is it the good fights you talked about earlier?
Bidashar, because I was FCing for 16 hours straight in 2 languages.
That's intense shit. What about you, Blurkus?
I was in Bidashar like literally like right when it started, when the Titans jumped in, and I was like, well shit, someone's gotta have to run subcaps, so I formed I had like 200 interceptors, and we like shut down the entrance into the system. We're just killing like everything for 16 hours, and then I was on a different account with a super in the fight, like coordinating like Russians moving their supers that they just resubbed from Stain all the way to Immensia, and like coordinating all of that while also running around with like 150 interceptors, killing a bunch of shit, trying to get into B-R through the one. And yeah, that was like pretty crazy. It was from like 11 a.m. to midnight before I gave, or like till like 2 a.m. for like from 10 a.m. to. It was pretty crazy.
Blurkus, you didn't play at the time of BDR, right?
No. The only one of the good memorable fights I've had, and this I wasn't FCing like as often, or yeah.
You don't have to be FC.
I only started FCing like maybe a year and a half ago, like actively, but I took part in UALX and X47. Those are good fights. That's the only ones I can ever remember.
There was like big impactful fights, you know. At the time with all the tie-dye, you're like, ugh, get me out of here. In the end, it's part of the story, so that, you know. I would say, like, if you have them once a year, maybe twice a year, I can live through that, but I don't want that every day or every week, or even once a month. That's too much. But yeah, and BTEC-R, I was there too, also FCing, but so when this all kicked off early on, what I thought was a cool idea to counter the wrecking ball shit was to have like a shit ton of bombers with void bombs. So you just kept everyone out at the same time. And I wanted to try it so badly. And so I heard they're forming and all that stuff, and like everyone's banging the drums like crazy. So I actually formed bombers for that to cap the entire wrecking ball from Panfam, or like N3 at the time, sorry. To cap them out. But nothing happened. It was like the most disappointing thing ever. Like in theory, in EFT, and you know, that's one of the things that FCs do a lot. EFTing, it all looked so beautiful, right? If you have 50 bombers with void bombs, and they're all balling up, if you hit the middle, they should all get hit, and then you should end up soaking their cap dry after a while, at least. So they should struggle, and you know, should be a good thing. But in tie-dye like that, the cap didn't even get calculated. Everyone had infinite cap anyway. So I jumped in like, I don't know, 50, 60 bombers. I forgot how many it was. And we were completely useless. So like I've no idea how long, but I think after 5, maybe 6 hours, I just told everyone, it's like, guys, just hold on this stuff, use your taubes. Nobody's gonna shoot you anyway, right? Gonna be fine. But I'm off, so I logged off for the night then. And actually when I logged back in, I think the last Nyx died. And yeah, I mean, that's a memorable fight for sure. I think that's the #1 fight in EVE, actually. The #1 battle in EVE is BTEC, I believe. And then you have somewhere X47 is probably like #2 or 3.
Never again.
Yeah, that's what you say. But after a while, if that one big fight comes up and it's part of the whole story, like, come on, let's do it. You know? Wouldn't you agree? Come on, what would it be without those fights? Would be weird too.
Yeah, it wouldn't really be Eve then.
Nah, yeah. Maybe one day we're gonna imagine a world without tie-dye. Maybe the Haitian guys are gonna fix it at some point and say like, oh, we've got the tech, give us a year, and then suddenly Eve has no tie-dye in those massive battles. That would be a step forward, huh? Wouldn't it? Then everyone would be all hyped about those fights. But then it wouldn't be 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, or even 5,000 man fights. It would
Be like 10,000.
Exactly. We would find a way to create that. Don't worry.
The only 10,000 man fight I've seen is 9-Tech-4, and that's only because fucking Pro got like hurt so hard about it.
Fucking pickles. Had to hype it. Yeah, for those who are not aware, 9-Tech-4, it's like he coined the name $1 million battle, right? And hyped it up on like Reddit / games.
No, he went.
Oh yeah, he went on Canadian TV and all that stuff and talked about it, and it was like, and I appreciate that. You know, putting yourself out there, I can appreciate that. Like, I'm doing it myself at the moment anyway, but I can appreciate like Pro got going out hyping stuff like that, like hyping for the game. He didn't mean to create tie-dye. I mean, he should have actually predicted it, but he didn't. That wasn't his goal, you know. So I can't be mad at it. And yeah, it was just sad that it was such a shit fight in the end. Like, that propaganda or that PR would have been great for the game if it was a better fight. Yeah, it was a joke, 9-Tech-4. But also our approach, like the Imperium's approach, was killing the Keepster with fighters and fighter bombers. Wasn't the most, like,
the risk-averse tactic.
Yeah,
that you guys learned for X47.
That is correct. It was a valuable lesson, 100%. Yeah.
Go all in or nothing at all.
Yeah, and you were in X47 too, right? I'm sure. Yeah. Why wouldn't you?
I was at work. I opted to not participate in that shit fest. I didn't have a Titan at the time anyway, so it's not like it would have mattered for me to be there. But I was at work, just paying attention. And then when I came back from work, I didn't even bother like joining because it was just what's like subcaps aren't going to really be doing much, and I don't have a Doomsday to add, so
yeah, that's one of those.
I really despise those kind of fights, like those 20-hour tie-dye fests. So I try to avoid those. Like the only one I went all in for was B-R. I haven't really gone all in for any other ones since, in terms of this big tie-dye Keepstar fest.
But you just said it's one of your most memorable fights. BTK.
Yeah, but I don't think that something like that will happen again, though. So it was a different time.
Yeah, you might be right. I mean, that's what people said for a while, and then X47 and UALX happened.
But like,
so
but was X47 fun though? Did people have fun shooting a Doomsday every 30 minutes? And like,
you know, I would argue some people had fun.
Yeah, sure, some did, but I don't know. If you polled everyone there, I think the majority of people who said like, no matter what side they're on, probably thought it was incredibly painful.
The fight itself. Yeah, in the fight itself, I agree 100%. Like, I know exactly what you mean, but I think at the end, the next day, and you have something accomplished, that kind of, like, for like the Imperium side in this case, that kind of fixes it for you, right? It's a struggle, right, when you're doing it, but when it's done, the same for Rage. When we did Rage, having hold control for so long and then like doing the bush ravens or around the keep stuff for like an hour straight, it's like it's tough, right? But then when you're done, it's such a relief. It's a good thing. So, you know, I think that should be part of the what do you call it in English? Equation? Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you shouldn't leave that out. And obviously, if you're on the losing side, that's not gonna help. You're not liking it more afterwards. But yeah. All right. I think we are close to the 2-hour mark, guys. If anyone on stream has good questions, bring them on. Right. I try to read questions a little bit more today. I have to get better with it, but it's hard for me to track a conversation and then read questions on top of it and stuff. If you have good questions, bring them on. The same apostle whooped in and died. What? You haven't been in a large Titan fight yet in your short EVE career. Well, the medium-sized Titan fights are where the fun is. The Snuff versus Deadcore fight, for example. That thing was like fast-paced and fun. You know, stuff jumped in left and right and shot each other, and stuff died quick. So that's the... How did the guest FCs pick their names? Blurkus, you start. How did you pick your name? Blurkus 2-inch.
Oh, Jesus Christ. And, you know, I was asked this before by a school teacher, and the answer I told her was, I am Asian.
There you have it. The rest you can figure out. He's Asian.
My name, I don't know. I was 11, and my mom helped me, and we came up with this name.
Oh, really? That's cute. Oh, that's the best name ever then.
Yep.
Clearly, you're the alpha.
Mm-hmm.
That's too funny. Your mom helped you. Yeah, for me, it was just like Greek mythology. Like, I think I talked about that before. It's just like I didn't know I'm playing under this name. I thought Pandora, that's a cool thing, right? Don't fuck with Pandora, you're gonna get turned into stone and shit. I was pretty young too, right?
That's
I
Medusa.
Oh no, Pandora's box, exactly. Yeah. But it's Greek mythology, right? Don't open that box, you know. Yeah. So your mom named you twice, yeah.
Yeah, I guess so.
Definitely an interesting thing to happen then.
We want more. I'm Asian is not an answer. No, that's the only answer you're gonna get for now.
I mean, the answer is that.
Sorry, I fucked the Medusa shit up. Yeah. Stop it.
What the fuck?
Come on, it's Greek mythology. That's alright. Alright, any more questions? Any thoughts on the upcoming wormhole patch? We actually talked about that for a second, but we're not wormholers. I feel like it's a good thing. Alright. And when I had wormholers on last time, the guys from AFK, they both asked for exactly that. More connections, more opportunity for content creation, right? That's in general what I feel like all FCs are asking for. That's why I keep asking similar questions to all the guests to find kind of like the common ground too, right? So maybe if there's anyone interested out there that might have influence on CCP or whatever, you know, they have a good like grasp on what FCs or content creators think about certain stuff. So yeah, there you go. It's not a panda. No, it's not a panda reference. Yeah, it was Pandora, but I just put a Lika on it. It sounds more modern, and Pandora was already gone. So, will you take more fleets? Would you take more fleets into wormhole space for more content and more loot? Never say never, right? Warm Space is like its own special thing, so maybe. I'm gonna be in Warm Space at some point again, I'm sure. Alright.
You're in normal space every time you do a fleet. Or every time you do a Stuka fleet.
Ellie, do they have particular doctrines they favor? We talked about that. You gotta have to watch the thingy. But in general, I think the answer was like, both of them are pretty much all-rounders. Whatever is best, they pick that. That's not no big deal. You can you weren't there at the start then. Alrighty, guys. Then I would say thanks to Alpha and Blurkus for coming on, and I had a good time. And yeah, maybe we should do that. Do it again at some point, and talk
Thanks
about
for
some
inviting us.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
FC stuff. All right, and then also, guys, thanks for the subs, follows, and all that stuff. Scar, I remember that name. That's an old school name from Init. And then Joe Bain with the host and stuff. Thanks a lot, guys. When's the next FC chat? It's every Sunday, 2000. Schedule, guys. Also, I'm sorry for my schedule. Like the normal streams, what I stream, it's not always like I like to have my fleets very punctual. Like I start the fleets punctual, but when I stream, I usually start streaming in the second we get tackle, so it's never 1500 spot on. So it's a little bit, and strategic stuff gets in the way. God damn, these AU time zone timers up there, they get me.
Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah, and then US time zone, it's not really that easy for me to stream. And Euro time zone, there's enough timers on our side then, so it's always tricky to keep up with that schedule. I'm trying my best though. Right? Just know that if I'm not streaming on that day, there's a good reason for that, and that like I have no control over it. But yeah, strategic stuff goes first. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it, and thanks for watching. Oh yeah, and if you prefer the podcast version, actually, it's getting uploaded on all the platforms by Talking the Stations. But also we make sure that it's gonna be super fast on Spotify. So if you want to listen to it on Spotify, you prefer that, it's gonna be on there in 24 hours because Twitch has a 24-hour exclusivity rule. So there you go. And if you want to get notified, join the Discord. And what else? Did I forget something? Where the mods at? I think that's all right. I'm also uploading to YouTube, yeah, all the platforms. I think YouTube is probably not the most popular for that. You can watch it on Twitch anyway, directly. But yeah, I do upload it there anyway. It doesn't take me much. Like I've got a good internet connection. I can upload it easy peasy. So yeah.
Friendly reminder that Issa is going for CSM next year.
Don't vote Issa for CSM, guys. I don't think she is running though. For those who are wondering, it's a troll, alright? Don't lose your mind about it. Alrighty, guys. Thanks a lot, and see you guys around. If I find the thingy. There you go.